Now, this time a week ago, we spoke to Dr. Roger Gewolb, a personal finance expert, CEO of Fair Money, about what on earth was going on with our economy, whether those tax cuts will be reversed. Let's now talk to him again 1 week on to find out whether the situation is any better. Morning, Dr. Roger.
Good morning, sir.
So tell me, are things better, simple question, than they were a week ago? Is Liz Truss's gamble starting to pay off or not?
I don't think so, no. I think things are markedly worse.
How so?
Well, I mean, it depends on which way you look at it. I think that Liz and Kwasi are certainly in line for some of the first gongs in the very first King's Honors list for services to labor. I just can't believe what has happened. So many people have said so many things about it. The best for me is Mohammed El Arian, an American Egyptian, probably the most famous or one or two most famous economists in the world. And he said, you see this kind of thing with a third world developing country. You don't see presentations like this from a G7 nation. I've just never seen a great nation fall so far, so fast to pariah status in the international financial world. I think
what have they specifically done? Some people might be listening to this saying, well, what is it that Britain has done? Okay, we have put taxes down and we borrowed some more. Well, we borrowed a lot during COVID. We borrowed a lot during the economic crisis of 2008. So what are we doing now that is so different to those occasions where we borrowed a lot that warrants such strong words?
Yeah, they're very strong words that I'm hearing all over the place. Of course, I'm hearing the opposite too, and certainly there are a lot of Tory party officials and politicians defending the government's position and that it will be all right. But I can't honestly say, we'll see how it turns out, because it's pretty clear about the damage that's been done. I mean, before I answer your question specifically, which is an excellent question, Cristo, let me just say that the Chancellor's speech at a budget is always a very nerve-wracking event, which, as you may well know, is why chancellors are always allowed an alcoholic beverage while they're delivering their budget speech. And they're known for that. I can't remember, but Geoffrey Howe was known for gin and somebody else was known for dark rum and blah, blah, blah. Kwasi had water, apparently, because they didn't want to call this a budget yet. They actually began calling it a fiscal event.
And it made me festival. I think
fiscal festival. It made me think of a function when people say I went to a function instead of I went to a fabulous wedding because actually I didn't like the groom or the bride. They finally ended up calling it a mini budget, and so Kwasi and his glass of water treated it as not a full budget. So it was kind of half of one thing and half of another, and during many, many, many decades, if not hundreds of years, when the chancellor has his alcoholic or her alcoholic drink and delivers the budget, the worst fear they have is that the pound will start moving the wrong way. It's never happened. So every chancellor who goes up to the lectern with his G&T or her G&T is told, or their G&T is told, look, don't worry, this has never happened. Well, this time it happened. I mean, it was horrifying to watch the pound tank while the man was speaking. Okay, so what was wrong with it? Several things were wrong with it, I think. Number one, it favors the wealthy. All they had to do was take the bottom threshold and raise it up, as Cristo Fufas himself said a week ago. It's just so blindingly obvious. Take the poorer out of the tax threshold at the same time as you reduce the 45% for the wealthiest people. That was just tactically unintelligent not to do that. Number two, it's all based on the fact that it's trickle-down economics. In other words, if you grow the country and you favor the rich, it will trickle down to the poor. Well, I don't know, but I've got a savings account with a bit of money in it, not all that much, and I never earned much interest on it, but now I earn nothing. And the bank has had increased interest rates with tons more money pouring into their coffers, people's mortgage payments monthly doubling. I don't see that. No, the bank hasn't sent me a notice saying we're increasing your savings rate by a similar amount.
But you know, you don't need me to tell you the principle of trickle down, meaning that actually by having a lower tax rate, it makes it more attractive to invest and to create jobs here in the UK and to start businesses here in the UK, meaning the trickle down is actually that more people will be employed, more jobs will be created, more people will therefore end up working, and that's how the principle of that trickle down works.
I haven't met the individual with the obvious agenda of his or her or their own who actually said that, because the truth is, there is no such thing as trickle-down economics, Cristo. You won't find a paper or an academic mention of trickle-down economics. And trickle-down economics is a joke.
All right, well, let me go back. Can we go back to the question I asked you, though, which is, no, but we're just limited on time. Why is this borrowing that is being used to essentially subsidise these tax cuts, subsidise the energy bills as well? Why is this different to the previous borrowing that we had?
I'm building up to it. Let me just say, trickle down is literally a joke. It's a wisecrack from the American humorist Will Rogers in the 20s, not an economic theory.
But you've only got 2 minutes to build up, so you need to reach the crescendo of your building.
Well, there is no crescendo. The point is that everything that I've said is what was found to be lacking in the plans. And the biggest thing, the killer, was the fact that they didn't back it up with any data or analysis as they should have done. I mean, there have been multiple reports that the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, which is the office responsible for checking numbers, it prepared a report, offered to update it, quasi decided to leave it behind, and didn't present the usual backup data. And that's what killed the whole thing. That's what the biggest flaw was in the presentation.
Has the pound not recovered now to a point?
No, the pound has come back a little bit, but it was savaged by traders and hedge funds. It was brutally attacked. So of course it's going to recover a little bit.
But isn't that just the nature of markets? What I'm trying to work out is whether it's all actually going to turn out okay, and whether this period of madness actually has some method behind it.
Everything is always going to turn out okay at the end of the day, but it's the voyage there that can sometimes be extremely difficult. Here, I think there's been some very serious damage done. If you listen to the interview by the MP, Sir Charles Walker, the other day, I think he explains it extremely well. I think there's been some serious damage, I'm not saying irreparable, done to the Tory party, certainly to the Prime Minister and the Chancellor, and I don't know what will happen next.
Okay, well, apparently the pound has rallied for the 4th day, and it is now back to where it was prior to the budget. 8% it's gone up by.
Right. Well, as I say, it was severely under attack. We'll have to see what continues to happen. The Prime Minister and the Chancellor met with the Office of Budget Responsibility yesterday, and they stressed it was not an emergency meeting. But if they all agree to work together and they come out with something that is economically the norm in terms of their plans and does support what they're doing, then things should move forward. But, for the International Monetary Fund to step in so brutally and say, you've got to reverse the tax cuts you've made, you can't afford them. It's like talking to, as I say, a third world country, Mohammed El-Arian said.
Always good to talk to you. Absolutely love our conversations. Dr. Roger Guiwab, personal finance expert, CEO of Fair Money.